So we'll be reading anatomy of pleura. Okay, this is trachea, this is left main bronchus, this is right main bronchus, this is the left lung, and this is right lung. Okay, and this is the pleura. Okay, so if this layer is parietal pleura and this layer is visceral pleura, between parietal and visceral pleura we have pleural cavity. Okay, so the pleural cavity has pleural fluid in it. Okay, so what is the volume of the pleural fluid? Normal pleural fluid volume of pleural fluid is equal to 0.1 to 0.2 ml per kg at any time. Okay, zero point 0.1 to 0.2 ml per kg at any time. So the daily turnover is approximately daily turnover of pleural fluid is approximately 250 ml per day. It keeps on forming and reabsorbing. So the daily turnover is about 250 ml per day and volume of pleural fluid at any time is 0.1 to 0.2 ml per kg body weight. Suppose there is a 50 kg man. Okay, so he will have approximately 5 to 10 ml of pleural fluid in his pleural cavity. Okay, and most important thing is to note that the right, the right and the left pleural cavity are completely separated from each other by presence of mediastinum and the heart. Heart and mediastinal cavity separates the right pleura and the left pleura from each other. Then we will study borders of the pleura. Borders of pleura and borders of lung. Okay. So how will we do the marking of the lung? At the sternum, so this is the marking of the borders of pleura and the borders of lung. So we take four lines, sternal line that is passing to the mid of the sternum, mid clavicular line, mid axillary line and paravertebral line. So the borders of pleura will be one space higher and lung will be one space lower. Okay. So suppose the pleura at mid sternal will be at 7th intercostal space and at mid-clavicular it will be at 9th intercostal space and paravertebral it will be at 12th. So one space lesser will be the markings of the lung 6, 6, 8 and 11 inches. Now we will study about the blood supply. So what is the blood supply of the pleura? As we all know, there are two pleural layers, the parietal pleural layer and the visceral pleural layer, which we are denoting with red color. So this is your visceral pleura and this is your parietal pleura. Now what will be their blood supply? So the parietal pleura derives its blood supply from the systemic circulation. Sorry. So, so the parietal pleura, this is the parietal pleura, gets its blood supply from the systemic circulation. Okay, systemic circulation. So what are the arteries that supplying the parietal pleura? They are internal mammary artery, intercostal artery, and the musculophrenic artery. These three arteries are the main arteries that supply the parietal pleura. So, and the venous drainage by the corresponding veins. So, internal mammary artery, in corresponding vein will be internal mammary or internal thoracic vein. Internal mammary artery is also called as internal thoracic artery. Okay. Intercostal artery, vein will intercostal vein. Okay. So 2 to 11 intercostal vein will drain finally into the internal thoracic vein, and the superior intercostal vein drain into the brachiocephalic vein. Okay, so 2 to 11 intercostal veins will drain into the internal thoracic vein, and the superior intercostal vein will drain into the brachiocephalic vein. Okay, this is the parietal pleural layer. The parietal pleural layer, its blood supply from both systemic and the pulmonary artery. Okay, so main supply is from bronchial artery and also pulmonary artery, and drainage into the venous drainage into the pulmonary venous system. Okay. Now we'll see the lymphatic drainage of pleural layer. Okay, so as you all know, there are two pleura, visceral pleura and the parietal pleura. So, what is the lymphatic drainage? The visceral pleural layer drains fluid accumulated from interstitium into the interlobar and hilar lymph node. Okay, and what about the parietal pleura? The parietal pleura drain into the submesothelial lymphatic. These submesothelial lymphatic correspond to the, depending upon the location, they drain either into diaphragmatic group of lymph node, retrosternal group of lymph node, internal mammary group of lymph node, or paravertebral group of lymph nodes. Okay. And these lymph nodes, one important thing, there are multiple stomata present which drain these lymphatic fluids, and these stomata have endoluminal walls. Okay, this is very important thing. These stomata have endoluminal walls which drain the lymphatic. Now, the nerve supply of pleura. So again, there is a parietal pleural layer and a visceral pleural layer. So the nerve supply of the visceral pleural layer is devoid of any somatic innervation. Okay, and the visceral pleural layer has rich network of sorry The visceral pleural layer has rich network of somatic, sympathetic, and parasympathetic fibers. Histology of pleura. So there are basically five pleural layers. This is very important. There are five pleural layers. What are these? This is M for mesothelial cell layer. It's a single layer. Then there is connective tissue layer. Connective tissue layer with thin basal lamina. Okay, in which there are collagen, elastic fibers, capillaries, and lymphatics. Next is the superficial elastic layer. Okay, then there is loose connective tissue layer again, loose connective tissue layer, and last there is the fibroelastic layer. Okay, so amongst all these five layers, the layer which is most important is the connective tissue layer with thin basal lamina. Second layer, it is very important, connective tissue layer with basal lamina. It is very important in the visceral pleura. This layer, because it contributes to the elastic recoil of the lung and is important and is very important in expiration. Okay, this is the layer that restricts the volume of the lung that can be expanded.